Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of 裏技英語. I am here on Zoom with my co-host Ishii Terumi. Hello Terumi.
皆さんこんにちは。裏技英語今週も始めていきましょう。どうも、もう一人のホストの石井てるみです。今週もよろしくお願いします。皆さんお元気ですか？暑いですね。
Terumi, we are recording the day after your birthday.
あ、そう実はサンキューになりまして昨日ですね、
Yeah.
誕生日でした。Thank you very much for mentioning that.
Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.Yeah, it's always good to have a birthday.
Yeah. Well, we've got a special present for you.
え？
We've got
プレゼント？何？
Well, it's another 裏技 interview episode as a present.
やったー！素敵なプレゼントありがとう BJ. Okay, that's the most wonderful present ever.
A dream present. A
Dream present. Yeah. I can't. Yeah.
Well, often, Terumi, when we talk about 外資系, you know, we talk about GAFA, you know, big corporations, don't we?
外資系企業といえば、まあ働いている人数も多いでしょうからね。GAFA、Google、Amazon、Facebook、
Apple. Actually, Facebook changed its name. Meta.
メタか。ガマ今。
Is it Gamma? I don't know.
今なんて呼ぶんでしょうね。ガマガエルみたいですね。
I don't know. Okay, but anyway, what I wanted to say was today we aren't talking about big corporations. We're going to talk about startups.
ああ、なるほど。今日のインタビューはスタートアップについてなんですね。BJ, you worked at a startup company, right?
I did work at a startup, and I guess you could argue that Tokyo Comedy Bar, in some ways, is a startup too. At least it's a new business.
BJ が5月にオープンさせました東京コメディバーもスタートアップですよね。
Yeah. And the person we're interviewing today helped me.
お、東京コメディバーを立ち上げるにあたって BJ を助けてくれた方を今日インタビューするんだ。どういうことだ？
Well, so her name is Miho Tanaka Miho, and she currently works for Startup City Sapporo as their startup visa lead, helping companies set up. Okay?
Startup visa lead ってどういうこと？
Well, I think lead is a way we say tanto in job titles, like leadership.
Startup visa って
I would say it's a 在留資格の visa. So let's do you know what, Terumi? Let's ask her rather than me
そう
guess.
ね。はいはい。現在はスタートアップシティ札幌にいらっしゃるということでしょうかね。
At the moment, and I think, you know, previously she was working in Shibuya and she was helping foreign business owners set up in Japan.
ああ、外国の方で日本でビジネスを始めたいという方を手助けする、そういったお仕事をされてたんだ。で、今もこうスタートアップ関連のお仕事を札幌でされているということなんでしょうね。スタートアップシティ札幌ということですからね。
Yeah, so she was a huge help to me. She taught me a lot about doing business in Japanese. And when I say doing business in Japan, I don't mean bowing and meishi, but like the nuts and bolts, the basics of setting up a business account in a bank, things like that. So she was a huge help to me. So I'm looking forward to talking today.
おー、なるほどね。日本でビジネスをするって何もね、お辞儀の角度だとか名刺の交換のやり方とかそういったことではなくって、どうやって法人の口座を銀行に開設するかだとか、おそらく会計士の紹介だとかそういったことかしら？
Exactly.
はいはいはい。
Exactly.
そういったことをね、BJ に対してヘルプしてくれた、そんな女性がいらっしゃったんですね。
Yeah. So are we ready to meet Miho Tanaka?
Yes!
Hello, Miho Tanaka. Welcome to 裏技英語. How are you?
I'm amazing. Thank you, Ben. How are you?
Sorry, Miho, just quickly a rule. I know you know me in real life, and I have a name in real life. But
Sorry.
when it becomes to this professional comedy podcast world, please could you call me BJ?
BJ. Okay. Yes. Sorry. BJ.
ベンも BJ もなんかね似てますけどね。
ごめんなさい。
BJ のこだわりが終わりだそうで。
BJ はい。Yes.
Okay, let's do it again.
メモってらっしゃいますよ BJ って。
忘れたらあかんから。はい。
Okay.
あ、今関西の方なんですか？
関西です。すぐバレます。
そうなんだ。
はい。
So, Okay, we're jumping around. So you're from Kansai, but I met you in Tokyo, and now you're in Sapporo.
Actually, I am currently in Kyoto. I'm temporarily visiting Sapporo. I left Tokyo. Yeah.
Okay.
So, そんな感じです。はい、BJ. Okay.
BJ, but you're amazing, yeah? that was your answer.
Yeah, I'm amazing. Trying. Yeah, my answer, yes.
Okay, and you're currently in Kyoto.
Yes, in Kyoto.
Okay, and what are you doing there?
Still working on my own business, trying to establish my business base.
Okay.
美穂さんも今ご自分でビジネスを立ち上げようとされてるんですか？
Yes.
What kind of? If I may ask.
So I am supporting international founders to launch a business in Japan. And so I have my own company to actually operate this support system.
投資家の人を集める。
international founders なので起業家ですね。
International founders. Okay, international found. Oh, you maybe tell me. Did you hear funders?
そう。ファンディングかと思っちゃった。ファウンダーか。国際的起業家の方をサポートする。
Yes. はい。
日本で立ち上げようとする外国の方をサポートする。
Exactly. そうです。
ってことですか。すごい。そういったお仕事なのね。
Okay, well, let's just take a step back there. Because in the introduction to this episode, I explained how we met each other in real life. I was setting up Tokyo Comedy Bar. I contacted, I believe, Shibuya-ku, and they introduced me to you, and you helped me in a number of different ways. Was that your own business?
So technically, I was getting project from Shibuya last year.
Yeah.
So I was operating the support. Providing the support under my company, I would say.
Okay.
So right now, I am doing the same thing under Sapporo city government. So I'm not a government people or anything, just like my company is kind of either directly get contract or subcontracted from the government.
東京コメディバーを立ち上げるにあたって渋谷区から紹介を受けたわけね。BJ さんのことをご紹介してもらって。
Yeah.
だから下請けなんていうんだ、その渋谷区だったり札幌市がこういう方いらっしゃいますよって言ってこう委託をする。
そうです。
そういった委託先の会社なわけですね。その外国の方でスタートアップしようとする人を。
そうですね。
この方にご相談くださいということで。
はい。
で今はじゃあそれを京都でされるということなんですか？
結構もうリモートでしてますね。
そっか。別に地理的に。
Because all the founders and entrepreneurs are all in abroad right now. They cannot even enter Japan, so I could do all of my job remotely. So
そっか今起業する人も海外にいる人が多いからお仕事もリモートのことが多いんですね。
そうですね。I would say 70% of my clients are still abroad. They are trying to enter to start a business in Japan.
In Sapporo?
Everywhere, I would say. In Tokyo, it was the same.
Okay.
もう 70% の人が、もちろん今コロナで海外にちょっと足止めを食らってるみたいな感じなんですか？
その通りです。
もともと日本に住んでるような方が多いんですか？そういう方って。
もともとそうですね。
もともとというか、日本にいて今たまたまちょっと日本に入れない状態ってことですかね。
もう多いですね。I would say most of them are living in Japan for about 2 years. Before COVID.
なるほど。そっか。で、今たまたまちょっと海外にいらっしゃる方が多いっていうことなんですね。
はい。
Well, it leads me to my next question, which I know the answer to already. Do you use English in your job? I guess you must do. Most of your clients aren't Japanese.
Yes. So when I face clients, I always need to use English. And unfortunately, I don't speak any other language aside from English. So I usually use English.
お仕事はほとんど英語ってなるんでしょうね。そうですよね。
And what is your background with in English?
So I studied in the United States. So that's the main place that I studied English.
Okay.
And before that, I went to Kenya. And I also
Kenya?
had to
Kenya.
speak English. Yes.
ケニアにいらっしゃったんですか？待ってください。今日本にいらっしゃって、その前アメリカにいらして、そのさらに前はケニア。
Tell me, it's Kyoto, Sapporo, Tokyo, Kansai, America, and Kenya. Okay, you have to keep track of all these places.
ですね。ちょっとなんか時系列で聞いていきたいですけれども、ケニアの前はどこにいらっしゃったんですか？
ケニアの前はもうずっと普通に学生ですね。
日本育ちでいらっしゃるんですか？
めちゃくちゃ日本、はい、京都育ちです。
京都育ちで、高校、大学まで京都ですか？
そうですね、大学まで京都で、立命館ユニバーシティに行ってました。
すごいインターナショナルなね、大学ですものね。で、そこからケニアなんですか？
で、学生時代、when I was student, I visited Kenya for kind of volunteer work, internship.
Okay.
インターンシップでケニアへ行かれたと。What did you do there?
Mainly supporting HIV positive women and kids there. So that was the first time that I would say I started kind of business. It failed, but kind of like I started social business there.
Okay.
すごい。学生さんのうちからケニアに行って、そういうボランティアじゃないですけれども、ご自分のソーシャルビジネス、活動を始められたんですね。
してましたね。
Must have been a life-changing experience ですね。
Exactly, yes.
I think that's interesting, Tenemi, because often when we talk about Gaishi or English-speaking countries, we think of the US, the UK, Australia, and then maybe there's like another layer of Singapore, Hong Kong.
そうね、アジアとかね。
But the reality is, so many countries around the world, even if it's not their native language, speak English as the common language. So I guess what's the level of English like in Kenya? I imagine very, very high.
I agree. So as long as they study in English in elementary school, they can basically handle all the communication in English. But
Okay.
I would say many of the people that I met there didn't go to elementary school. So in that case, I had to use Swahili language instead.
スワヒリ語じゃあ使ってたんですか？
ちょっとだけ。
すごいな。
So it was funny that so like I was in Mombasa and the main capital city is Nairobi.
Yeah.
And in Nairobi, people use more like English. So even the Swahili become like English word. So when they say like we are coming, they're like una come. But in
混ざってるんですね。
in Mombasa, it was like una kuja or different. So very interesting language.
So is there like when we interviewed someone in Singapore, we talked a little bit about what we called Singlish. Is that was it una come? Is that Kenglish? Kenglish.
Maybe
Kenglish.
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 Maybe we can say that, I think. Yeah, so they're mixing a lot of like English words and also like I think Swahili was integrating a lot of Arabic word as well. And also I find a lot of like common like terminology in Japanese and Swahili. For example, like maji in Japanese like really.
Yeah.
And in Swahili it's water.
ウォーター？
Water. 水.
なんで水なんですか？
So in Swahili, like the meaning was very different, but the pronunciation and terminologies are very same.
どれくらいの期間いらっしゃったんですか？
Only 3 months in total, so it wasn't long. So I went to Kenya when I was 19 or 18 years old for the first time for 2 months. Then I couldn't do anything. So I studied in the States, studying English and studying about business. Then returned back to Kenya when I was 21 years old.
Okay.
それでもまだ21歳の時。
To restart.
その間にアメリカに行って英語の勉強をされたってことですか？
しました。Yes.
じゃあ立命館に籍を置きながらいろいろ海外でインターンシップだとか短期留学だとかそんなことを そういう経験を積んだって感じですかね。
そうですね。I did exchange program. I somehow could manage like 2 exchange programs in 4 years. So
Wow.
I went to Michigan and also New Jersey to study, and then with all the knowledge, then I returned to Kenya to restart some projects.
いやなんかもっとなんか社会人になってから戻られてたのかと思いきや、学生の間に早くもまた戻られたんですね。
そうですね。
いやすごい行動力。わお。
Okay.
その時はさらにまた何ヶ月かいらっしゃったんですか？
はもう1ヶ月で、その前からかなり準備してたので、I was preparing a lot and collaborating with some organizations.
へー。すごい。じゃあもう戻るために一生懸命準備を積み重ねて。
そうですね。
すごいですね。ケニアの人も嬉しかったでしょうね。美穂が戻ってきたって言って。
また戻ってきたってなってました。
God, she's back.
Yeah,
ねえ、美穂 is back. すごいですね。
Okay, well let's leave Kenya there. That's very interesting though, and just shows like another aspect of the power of learning English. But currently, you work supporting startups, especially foreign startups. How can Japanese English speakers get involved? Like, would you recommend startups for Japanese workers?
Definitely, yes.
Definitely, okay.
Because like we see a lot of open-minded people with pioneering spirit in startup world, like BJ, and everybody is so motivated, inspirational. So I just love working with them.
Just to clarify, tell me, make sure you translate that. BJ is an open-minded person.
あれ、ちょっと今のところだけちょっと
An open-minded person with a pioneering spirit, I think it was.
失礼しました。聞こえてましたよ。いや、それはでもそういう方々でしょうね。外国の地で、しかも新しいビジネスを始めるって、めちゃくちゃフロンティア精神が強くって、オープンマインデッドで、ね、なんか、すごい元気な方々にたくさん会えそうで楽しいですよね、きっとね。
楽しいです。
BJをはじめとして。
本当にすごく楽しいです。
どうしてこういうお仕事をやることになったんですか？
So when I was working for Tokyo government about 5 years ago, the job that I was assigned was managing a center that enable founders to launch a business at one place. So
Okay.
I was working there, and I listened
Jetro.
to
Was it Jetro?
close to Jetro. It was called
Okay.
Tokyo One Stop Business Establishment Center.
Okay.
東京都で最初そういったお仕事を手掛けたんですね。
And my main job was supporting international founders to use the center. And I also organized about 100 events and to
Wow.
promote this center. And that's the time that I could meet a lot of international entrepreneurs. And I listened to a lot of challenges that they face, like visa, bank account, and like housing, office, and nobody could solve the problem. So I started to get a lot of inquiries, and I thought I cannot even help them without knowing this process. So I quit the job, started my own business to learn together with the founders, going through all the procedures with them. Then that led me here.
すごい。そこでいろいろな課題を見つけられて、まあ、ビザの問題だとか、銀行口座の問題だとか、で、まあいろいろな問い合わせを受けていく中で、もう自分でやろうということで独立したと。
はい。
すごい勇気というか行動力と勇気。
Well, actually, I think it's one more than that. Kodoroku and Yuki also makes a lot of sense. Like, if you're going to do something and teach people, you need to know how to do it.
Yeah.
Like if there was a teacher who was teaching, let's say, stand-up comedy, and they've never done stand-up comedy, you'd be wondering why am I learning from this person?
そりゃそうだよ
Yeah.
ね。
So I think that's
本人が。
such a good attitude. Okay, well, I want to help people. In order to help people in the best way, I need to learn it myself. I think it's a great way to do things.
でもそれはだって東京都の職員でいながらも学ぶことができたわけじゃないですか。
東京都はそれも 別の会社からこう委託で受けてたんですけど、
なるほどなるほど、ほうほうほう。
But I thought that's just time efficient, and I thought I can commit more if I just start. And I started to working with about 5 startups companies
Okay.
At the same time after I quit the job, so I could gain a lot of like insights.
東京都からその時も委託でそういうお仕事をされてたけれども、やはりもうそこを一旦やめて自分で勉強してコミットした方が効率的だというご判断をされたんですね。
そうですね。Yeah.
Okay, so Miho, so we first met. I asked you for some questions, and I will say right now, opening a bank account in Japan is a bloody nightmare. But then you asked me to come onto this program called the Seeds Program.
Yes.
Where you taught a group of us over like, was it 8 weeks?
6 weeks, 8 weeks, yes.
Yeah. Now, was I a good student?
You're more like a advisor, I would say. Like, no, I wouldn't call you student because like he was even like teaching the other cohorts, like members, about how to get along with Japanese culture, and he knows a lot about this like how to manage this like corporate culture in Japan, and I learned a lot from 外資系英語 and 裏技英語 about which wording to use in which case. So, yeah, thank you for teaching us, BJ.
There was a few cases where they were teaching, telling me, and I would say no, I disagree.
うわー、なんかそういう生徒大丈夫でした美穂さん。だって美穂さんが一生懸命教えてるのにノーノーノーって横から入ってきたんですか。そこまでさすがに KY なことはしてない。
はい、教えていただいてました。
うわー、BJ は。BJ はスチュードントではなくてマウンティングですよね。しかも先生のメンツをね潰すようなことはしちゃダメですよ BJ。
Amazing.
Amazing advisor.
No, I guess the one thing I remember from that was there was a particular instant, two things. One was about drinking, communication, like how important drinking is.
コミュニケーションについてのお話とかもあるんですね。
Yeah, and I guess I felt that it isn't that important anymore. Like, especially during COVID, it's moved forward. There's more of awareness that it's not. You don't have to drink now in Japan. You know, you can get business done just on Zoom. And I felt it was like one lady from Hong Kong in the group, and she seemed to be like a little bit scared of the drinking culture. And I wanted to say, don't be scared.
Yes.
Don't be scared.
Yeah.
日本では飲み会でコミュニケーションを取るっていうのはね、外国の方にもそういうイメージが強いんですかね。
Yeah.
飲みのカルチャーが強いと。ほう。
そう。
芸人なんかもね、飲み会激しそうなんて言われるんですけれども、全然そんなことないですからね。やっぱりいろいろな思い込みというかイメージがあるんでしょうね、お互い。例えばね、日本の企業カルチャーにはやっぱり飲み会があるとか。まあ、そんなことないよってことを BJ が否定してくれたわけですね。あ、BJ いいやつだね。
A little bit. But
適切に。
I did feel a bit bad though that I was.
なんで
Well, because I was stopping the presentation sometimes.
He was
プレゼンを、
he was amazing speakers and he was even like encouraging the other founders. So yeah, we didn't want to stop.
Hey, have you ever thought about taking your English learning to another level, Tadami?
イングリッシュラーニングをアナザーレベルに引き上げたい。
Extreme English learning. It's called stand-up comedy.
うわー、スタンダップコメディはそりゃ一番難しいでしょ。しかも英語でやるんでしょ。
It's not muzakashi. It's fun. It's killing two birds with one stone. You're learning English and having a great time too.
難しいと言っちゃいけない。そのチャレンジを楽しめばいいわけですね。英語を学べるだけでなく楽しい経験もできます。英語でジョークを言って受けた時の爽快感たらないですよね。一石二鳥ですね。
And there's now a perfect place in Tokyo to see stand-up comedy. It's called Tokyo Comedy Bar. It's my startup.
はい、そんなスタンダップコメディを見ることができるのにうってつけの場所がございます。その名も東京コメディバー。そうです。仕事を失った BJ がどうしようと思っていた矢先にですね、これが僕の転職だと言って着手したのがこちらのスタンダップコメディのためのバー、東京コメディバーでございます。
Come and see me, producer Ruben, and sometimes Ishii Terumi as well, performing stand-up in English or in Japanese.
東京コメディバーに行けば BJ、プロデューサールーベン、そして石井てるみもたまに、はい、英語日本語のスタンダップコメディをやっておりますので、気になる方はね、ぜひ東京コメディバー、インスタグラム、ツイッターで常に情報を発信しておりますので、そちらをチェックした上でぜひ足を運んでいただけたらと思います。
Okay. Well, you've listened to our podcast, you said, so you know our podcast. And as you know, we like to introduce a phrase to our listeners, a phrase, a tip, or an urawaza. Now, do you have a phrase that you have found useful in your career? What is it?
Bootstrap.
Bootstrap.
何ですかそれは。
Okay, can I give the first basic translation of bootstrap, or the first meaning of bootstrap? As a noun, Terumi,
はい。
do you know what a strap is?
ストラップってなんか携帯につけるストラップとかそういう紐のようなものですか？
Okay, yeah. And do you know what a boot is?
ブーツ？
Yeah.
冬とかに履く靴ですか？
So a bootstrap is a strap on your boot.
あ、ブーツの紐ってこと、ブーツのストラップ。
Yeah.
はいはいはい。靴紐だ。うん。
Now that's the basic meaning. Now, Miho, what do you mean by it?
So in startup, that means the process of starting a company with only personal savings, including borrowed or invested funds from family or friends. So it means like bootstrapping means like entrepreneurs are trying to scale their business by themselves.
Okay, so first off, bootstrapping. It's a verb.
動詞で使うんだ。bootstrapping。
Bootstrapping.
へえ。あ、ビジネスを誰か他から融資を受けたりとかせず、個人的な蓄えとか、まあ身内から借りて始める。自分で始める。それをブートストラッピングって言うんですか？
そうですね。Yes. So without investment, they just bootstrap their business. So when they are bootstrapping, they haven't received any investment. And the good thing is, investors really care about whether it's startup, whether it's scalable. And when we say bootstrap, and it doesn't restrict these founders from the specific definition of whether the company is just startup or just small, medium-sized enterprise. So that's gonna broaden their futures, I think.
そうなんだ。これ日本語だとどういう役になるんですか？
自己資金で事業を成長させるっていう感じですかね。
ほう。なるほどね。すみません、ちょっと待ってください。インベスターが、なんておっしゃってました？インベスターからどう見えるかが変わってくる。
そうですね。
Well, I guess what Miho was saying was that, like, if you have to get investment for your business early on, then it changes how the level of freedom you have. You have to tell the investor what you want it to be, and you have to obey the investor. When you bootstrap and you're using your own money, and then I assume reinvesting any profits that you get and scaling it up, making it larger, then you have the freedom to choose the direction of your business. Is that correct? Is that what you were saying, Miho?
Yes.
なるほど。自己資金で成り立っている割合が多ければ多いほど、まあ自分のビジネスに対しての自由度が高い。
More control.
はい。そっちの方がいいとされてるんですか？
So sometimes I feel like if they get investment too early, then investors start asking the founders what to do. So like if they're just bootstrapping, that sometimes open up the doors for opportunities. And for example, they can keep the same pace until they can build a product that they really want to build. And they can also gradually grow the business. So it's, of course, nice if startups grow very fast, but there is lots of risk involved. So it's also important to like keep the same pace and create a legit product for themselves.
なるほど。あまりにも早い段階で外からの投資とか融資を受けてしまうと、自分たちでコントロールしづらくなってしまうから、やはり最初は着実に自分たちの資金で一定のペースで着実に成長していくのが大事なのではということですね。
一意見です。
ああ、はいはいはい。
And do you think maybe when you are bootstrapping, Miho, you have to become more creative? You understand what's most important about your business because you have to make choices based on constraints.
Exactly. Yes. So I think we might have more time to think inwards if we are bootstrapping. Okay. If we start getting the third party's investment, then we really need to spare our time for communications with these investors and a lot of like kind of reporting for these investors. So I think time-wise, we might have like advantage of like using our time.
やっぱ第三者が入ることによってそこに報告するだけでもだいぶいろいろ時間が取られてしまうようになるわけですね。なんか想像できますね。
Now, this phrase, so is bootstrapping to bootstrap. So I bootstrapped a business. I am bootstrapping my startup. It actually comes from an original English phrase, Teremi. And that phrase is to pull yourself up from your bootstraps.
To pull yourself up from your bootstraps.
Yeah.
これはどういう意味なのかな
It kind of means doing a really hard task. It's like, I'm going to do it. You know, I've reached a bad point in my life. I'm going to kakugo. I'm going to decide I'm going to make things better and do it all by myself.
腹をくくるみたいな感じかな。もう自分でここから抜け出すぞと覚悟を決める。
Yeah. So like an example would be he failed his school entrance exams, but he pulled himself up by his bootstraps, studied and got a scholarship the next year.
例えば入試で失敗してしまったけれども but pulled himself by his bootstrap、自分の力で努力して這い上がってきて勉強して奨学金をゲットしました。
Yeah.
なんでこれブーツの紐で例えられるんでしょうね。
I think it's because it's impossible.
Impossible?
Yeah. To pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So if you're falling over,
Yes.
and imagine in the old days you had straps on your boots.
Yes.
You can't actually pull up because you're pulling your feet. Like the only way to stand up is to push on the ground.
そういうことか。自分の足で立つことであって、その靴紐を持ち上げながら立つことができない。
Yeah.
っていうことか。へえ。
So and it also has that meaning that you're not relying on any other support around you. You're doing it all within yourself.
他の何にも頼らずに自分自身で解決すると。自分自身を上に引き上げるってことですか？
Yeah.
なるほどね。自主的な。
Yeah. No, I was going to say like it means coming out of what did you call it? Zasetsu?
Zasetsu?
Zasetsu. But pull it, yeah, getting out of zasetsu by yourself. When you're down, lifting yourself up.
なんか挫折、セットバックスとかがあった時に、自力で立ち上がる。
Yeah.
そういう感じですね。人の助けを借りないこと、自助努力っていうのが bootstraps という言葉の辞書的な意味ですけれども。なるほど。
And I would say, Miho, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's as much a mentality as it is a verb.
I think so.
Is your business a bootstrapped business?
Yes, my business is bootstrapped. Yes.
Okay.
かっこいいMy business is bootstrapped って言い切るってかっこいいですね。
But I might need some investments in the near future. Let's
い
see.
やいや、もちろんもちろん。うん。Let's see. ちょっと待って、辞書にはですね、ブーツを履くときに他人の力を借りないで自分でつまみ側を引っ張り上げる様子から、まあ、とにかく自分でブーツを履いて自分の力で立ち上がるみたいなことでしょうかね。
Yeah. Okay, well, excellent phrase, Miho. Thank you for introducing that. It's probably a phrase we don't come across too often when we're talking about big businesses in Gaishike, because that's the opposite of Bootstrap. That has got lots of resources and lots of funding.
Exactly.
BJ 今言った通り、本当これは実際にね、自己資金でやるという意味でもあるけれども、メンタリティですよね。なんかまずは自分の力で立ち上がらないと、どんなプロジェクトでも、企業でも、まあ、芸人とかでもそうですけれども、誰かの力に頼って誰かが助けてくれるとか思ってたら結局グラグラしてしまうので、最初はやっぱブーツラッピングしないといけないなって、メンタリティにも通じることだなと思いました。
Okay, thank you very much, Miho Tanaka. You're on Twitter, I believe, Miho?
Yes, I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn, everywhere.
Everywhere. And have you got any final piece of advice for our listeners? If any of our listeners have a dream of being a startup, what is your advice?
Just try to do networking with lots of people, and we can start small and just create a business, and when we stuck, we always have like community of startups that can help each other. So yeah, let's create a community together to build a better startup ecosystem in Japan.
Wow. すごい勇気づけられますね。
Yeah.
スタートスモール。まあ最初は小さな一歩で、まあ小さく始めるって大事ですものね。急に大きな夢を描くとそっちの方が頓挫してしまいますけれども、まあちょっとずつ始めて、まあ挫折するようなことがあっても、コミュニティがあると、美穂さんもいらっしゃるということですね。
いるようにします。
いや、素敵だな。
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Miho. It was very interesting. From Kenya to startups. Certainly a very unique episode of Urawaza Eigo. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
美穂さんありがとうございました。
So tell me, how was your birthday present?
もうとっても素敵でした。もう私の、あれですね、これ言おうと思ってたんですけど、エピソード39が、すごいこんなに、私からすると、まあ BJ は、なんつったっけ。まあいいや、こんなにね、行動力に溢れ、インスパイアリングで、アトラクティブな素敵な方のお話を聞けて、石井てるみのエピソード39が華麗に始まりましたね。
But I would say what I found interesting about the course, and we said this in the beginning, was so often when we talk about doing business in Japan, it is all about this, like keigo, meishi, like you said, ojiki no kakudo. But what I found interesting about what I did with Miho was it was really the basics. Okay, how do you start a bank account? How do you get funding from a company? How do you set up is it going to be a Godo Gaisha? Is it going to be a Kabushiki Gaisha? Is it going to be a Kojin Jikyo? And actually I found it very, very practical.
プラクティカルでエッセンシャルですごく有益な情報をだからたくさんお持ちでいらっしゃって、多分その裏ではね、膨大な経験値と勉強量といろいろなものがあって、これだけ多くの方を、だって何百人もの外国の人と去年も会ったっておっしゃってましたから、すごいことですよね。
Yeah. And also I think this episode ties nicely bootstrapping to another one of my favorite episodes, side hustle. Side hustle.
Side hustle. 副業的な。
Where you do something small, maybe you bootstrap it on the side, and then you see how it grows.
Side hustle. 自分一人でやって、ちょっとずつ始めてって、そうね、どれだけ大きくなるか、うまくできるかっていうのを自分で試してみるということですものね。
Yeah. So you don't have to quit your job straight away. You don't have to go in and get investment and start a $1 billion business on day one. You can start small, make it moving, and just the most important thing is to start.
一番大事なのは、とにかく始めること。 一人で始めてしまえばいいんですよね。別にその今の仕事を完璧に辞めなきゃとか、どこかからたくさんの投資をもらわないととか、そういったことじゃなくって、まずは一人で小さく始めてみる。そういうのが大事だということも教わりましたね。
Yeah. And basically, in the course, this is what I would do. She would be talking, and then I would just come in and talk like that every now and again and give like some wisdom.
美穂さんがこう提供されてたコースの間でも、BJ は
I would say, like, ちょっと待って everyone.
ちょっと待って。
So what's important is just starting.
はははは。ということでね、みんなちょっとここで一つ。まあ、大事なのはとにかく始めることだから。と言って BJ がジャンプインしてたの。大丈夫だったのかな、それ。Really? You did that?
Yeah, and then
Really?
And then every week I would then say, すみません、ちょっと保育園の迎えがありますので、bye.
で、散々好きなことを言って、急に保育園の迎えがあってパッと消えちゃうわけね。それ何人受講してたのそれ。How many people were there at one time?
10 people.
で、10人聞いてて、普通は美穂さんがお一人でいろいろ教えてもらってて。
2 people. There was an American guy as well.
もう一人、そうか教えてる人がいて、他の人はおとなしく聞いてる中、BJ は何度もね、ちょっと待ってっつって、インタラプトしてたと。すごい珍しいタイプの生徒だったんじゃないですか？まあでも BJ がね、すごい useful なインサイトをいろいろインプットしてたんだろうなってのは I can imagine that だから。
Honestly, it was actually a good vibe. It was a good communication. Hopefully it was useful. But anyway, hopefully our listeners also find this episode very useful too. I found it very interesting. Bootstrapping is a great word to know.
ね、bootstrapping.
And we will see you again for another episode next week of 裏技英語。
はい、私もブートストラッピングという言葉を初めて知れて、何事もまずはね、自分の力でできるところまではやってみるっていうメンタリティはね、大事だなということを思わされましたので、39歳はブートストラッピングで参りたいと思います。ちょっと何言ってるか分かりませんけれども。ということで、裏技英語、来週もまた月曜日に配信しますので、聞いてくださいね。今週もどうもありがとうございました。皆さんお元気で、バイバイ。
バイ。